What's going on, guys? So, I'm sure as the reality of what is going on, not just with this infectious disease, but the economic and social calamity that it is slowly but surely causing. I'm sure most of us are thinking of our own livelihoods, survival, and families. And I had, I didn't promise, but I did mention that I am canceling all, all, um, production of video, blog, and documentary formats, across all platforms that touch on any subject that is not related directly or indirectly to coronavirus. I also had hinted that I wouldn't be interested in making any videos about black females, um, because right now I quite frankly don't give a fuck about them any more than they give a fuck about me. Um, my concern, as should be the concern for all of us, is with my own well-being and the well-being of my family. As I said, there are four um, immediate threats that I see. Well, really five. A breakdown of the socioeconomic system. This virus outbreak, I've suspended operations, and I've been monitoring myself constantly for symptoms because they say with some people, the symptoms don't break out for a week or more. You could have already been infected. Some people don't get any symptoms. I know my anxiety is causing me a lot of symptoms. I had trouble sleeping last night. I've been in constant contact with my sister out in LA, which just went on full lockdown. The entire state of California went on lockdown today. They closed the border between Nevada and California. That has never happened before. That's just how serious these motherfuckers are taking this shit. I've been in constant contact with my parents up in the Chicagoland suburban area. Um, so, uh, really, if you're not concerned with what's going on, you're either a survivalist that has, land and property and goods stocked away to last you a couple of years out in the countryside or in some wooded area, or you're retarded, or maybe you're just a fucking idiot. But things are about to get very interesting, and it's not going to be in a good way for most of us because, truth be told, most of us did not prepare for this. A lot of us, we talk about it, you know. We all like to show how intelligent we are, but almost none of us prepared for this. Even people that make in the high six figs, even most of them live hand to mouth, paycheck to paycheck. Nobody really expected something like this affecting the entire globe's health, both physically and financially. But rest assured, I cannot stress this enough, as I've promised to bring you continuing nonstop coverage as long as I feel I safely can, of course, um, considering other things that might be of more immediate priority if need be. I cannot stress enough, okay? This is a very real threat to our livelihoods, if not our lives. Now, they're saying that a majority of people who get infected with coronavirus um, are going to be okay. I had made a video a couple of days ago stating that they were a little concerned with the rising number of cases in Italy, that where young people were getting severely ill. Although I looked at the numbers, and 87% of the fatalities in Italy are of people over the age of 70. Although in my state and in some neighboring states, Um, some of the people who have been dying have not been over their 70s. They've been in their 50s, 60s, and then 70s, 80s. It seems to range between 50s and 90s. And that's my parents are in the 60s age range, so I'm greatly concerned with them. But that's just the short term. The virus is just the short term. They're gonna come up with a treatment for this. They're already working on that. They're gonna come up with a vaccine. That's just the short term of what we're dealing with here. We're also dealing with something that could literally bring about the end of modern civilization as we know it. Now, I do have some hope, and I don't want to give people false hope, but being a history buff myself, I have thought about it over the last few days, and I do realize that, you know, realistically, when you look at the worst um, world disasters that have affected most or the entire globe, you know, I mean, World Wars One and Two, the Spanish flu outbreak, the bubonic plague, um, the Great Depression. There was a lot of people don't know the Great Depression wasn't just here in the United States. When the stock market crashed in 1929, it also affected other countries as well. That is what actually brought about the rise. The depression in Europe was far worse than it was here in the United States. That's what brought about the rise of people like, Benito Mussolini and Adolf Hitler in the early 1930s, giving people hope, talking that shit, and putting the blame on people who brought about the depression and collapse of the world's markets. But the good news is, just judging from what happened after the Spanish flu in World War One, it was hard for a couple of years, but the world bounced back, and it bounced back stronger than ever. I mean, what happened right after 1918? The Rolling 20s, right? In the Rolling 20s, there was an economic boom. There was a population explosion. There was a lot of modern. There was a lot of modern renovations of the way the world operated. But then, of course, at the end of the Rolling 20s was the 1929 stock market crash, which brought about the Great Depression. But then, what got us out of the Great Depression? World War II, which inspired people to a call to arms, even if they were making tanks and bombs in car factories. Okay, and then after World War II, in that perilous time, we had the 1950s. The troops coming back from World War II and the baby boomer generation of the 1950s. So what I see when I look, is a pattern that is up and down, up and down. And so I understand that what we're experiencing now is really no different than other parts of history. It's just real to us because this is our history now. Okay? If you look at the first 20 years of this century, you see, how it started with the fear of Y2K, and then the September 11th attacks, and then the so-called war on terrorism, which still goes on today. It's the United States government's so-called longest war in American history. The invasion of Iraq and occupation of Afghanistan, and now they're in the same place they are with the Taliban as they were almost 20 years ago. And we saw the economic recession and financial crisis of 2008, and then we saw the economy bounce back, and a couple of other things happened, and now we're dealing with this germ crisis that hopefully most of us and our families will survive. And now this is going to bring about another down part of human history. But the good news is, if you look at history, humanity and Earth up to this point has always bounced back, and usually, just like Trump said, although I'm no Trump nut hugger, I neither like nor dislike the guy. I think he's interesting. I think he's funny. He pisses liberals off. So that's one thing in his pocket. But he did say something interesting when he speculated that the United States economy would bounce back twice as much as where it is down. And, probably from a analytical standpoint, a lot of people would say he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. But from a historical standpoint, he would be accurate if you ask a lot of historians. Okay, we've climbed out of some jams, not just collectively, but also as individuals. Okay, so I led this video with that because I think that is very, very important. Okay, that people understand what we could possibly be in for. Hopefully, this is a false alarm. Everything goes back to normal in a couple of months, but you need to be prepared as an individual and as a family person. If you have a family, black or white, male or female, you need to be prepared. And I don't just mean with bullets and ammo. That's the same thing. I'm sorry. With guns and ammo, because you can't eat guns and you can't eat ammunition. Okay. You need to be prepared with, not only stocks of food, but, in case utilities get cut off, you need to know, you need to be setting up amongst your relatives and friends, support networks where it's like, hey, I got this. I can, give you some of it, but I need this from you. Do you have some of that? That's where our concerns need to lie. Okay. So I want y'all to understand that I am in no way, shape, or form deviating with this video from what I promised, which is continuing coverage of this global crisis that at this point is affecting all of our lives. It hasn't gotten bad yet. That's the interesting thing. It's gotten bad for some people who are out of work, but it's not so bad to the point where it's affecting all of us in a very severe way yet. But that could be coming. Okay, and so we all need to be aware of that. Now, with that being said, hence the title of this video, I'm going to read you something, and you may have already read it yourself. It's a screenshot that I took this morning from the community post that was shared with me by a brother that alerted me to it in email when I woke up this morning and read my email. He said, go to Crystalline Kerrisan's page. And, I wasn't really in the mood. I was thinking about listening to the White House press briefing, calling my parents, stuff like that. I wasn't really interested in, giving a flying fuck what this chick was doing. But I went ahead and checked, and her last community post read like this. Quote, "Hi, Pinkies. I just want to take a moment to encourage you all in this very trying time. I know it might be easier to put our heads in the sand and seek petty and non-productive distractions, but things really are quite serious. The news is hinting not at a recession but a depression. Now is the time for us to band together, share life-saving advice, and hunker down. I urge all black female content creators to work together in harmony for the collective good of us all. Many of us may be losing jobs, have virtually no savings, and no direct line of defense. A leaked memo from the Philadelphia Police Department said that low-level crimes like robbery, assault, burglary will no longer be attended. The courts are closed and the police are looking the other way. Please focus. This is not a game. Prayers, hugs, and love to you all. And please stay safe out there." So this post on the Girl Who Swirls community posting section is a very, very significant piece of evidence which supports statements that I've made and other brothers have made over the years about the mythology and also the childlike mind game manipulation of this so-called swirling community. First off, when you examine this post, and let's scroll it in a little bit, one of the first things that Crystalline Kerrisan acknowledges as the because from what I understand, she's been trying to avoid talking about coronavirus in her videos and her community posts for days. The show must roll on because, like Tommy, she actually profits off of her Girl Who Swirls channel, and she has to keep selling pipe dreams to black women, many of whom don't have a snowball's chance in hell of getting the type of white men that, like, say, you see at the top of the screen here. But the reality is setting in for everybody, including her. And one of the things that she acknowledges is something that we've been saying all along as this coronavirus crisis gets very real for a lot of us. And that is, where is it? She says, I know it might be easier to put our heads in the sand and seek petty and non-productive distractions. So she admits that this whole swirling thing is petty and it's non-productive. What does she mean by petty? What she means is you have a lot of bitter, angry, and both physically and mentally unattractive black women that are really just retaliating against black men by trying to say, "Ooh, see here, see, I'm willing to date and screw and marry non-black men. I don't want you." When even I believe it was Akwesi said years ago that this is a kamikaze mindset of a lot of black women that just want to get back at black men. This really doesn't have anything to do with white men, you know. And that's not to say that there aren't black women that are openly seeking white and non-black men for dating, relationships, sex, conceiving of biracial children. But it's just acknowledging the fact that most of them are petty. I mean, she's literally saying it without saying it. And then she also admits to her followers that it's a non-productive distraction. This whole girl, get down with the swirl, get you a white man, unrealistic fantasy is non-productive and a distraction. Now, when you back off of that, and you first see that this woman acknowledges that, I mean, basically right there in that sentence, she acknowledged that her and her entire movement is full of shit and has been full of shit, which, we've known all along. But when you back off and you read the rest of the post, you realize that this woman, who everybody knows by now has been separated from her husband for eons at this point. He hasn't been seen in pictures with her since 2012. She is worried about herself, and she is worried about other so-called swirling black women, and she's worried because of the mythology that I speak about, which is that most of these women, even if they are somewhat physically attractive, like the women that you see at the top of the collage, to actually pull, handsome white men that are willing to marry them and, have babies with them, an overriding majority of these females are either unable to get white and non-black men, or they're simply, sex toys for non-black and white men, white and non-black men. And so essentially what you have is a cadre of cult members that have followed not just Crystal and Karazin, but this entire mindset that they can divest from a so-called Blackistan, type of nightmare situation that they've created with all this single mother, um, baby having, that they essentially created into this utopia of some white prince, knight in shining armor, that's going to take care of them and going to protect them. Okay, if you notice very clearly, you see what Crystal and Karazin says. She doesn't say, black women, speak with your white boyfriends and your white husbands, or your white male friends, start making preparations with these white and non-black men to survive this oncoming depression that she believes is about to happen. She doesn't tell them, speak to your local white, get you a white man agent about life-saving tips and survival. She doesn't say that. What does she say? She says, black women, it's time for all black women to come together, regardless of philosophical, theoretical, religious, political, or social beliefs and stances. She's calling on the IR community. She's calling on the Black First Hotep community. She's calling on the you know take care of myself, I don't need no man or nobody community of black females. She's calling on black women to help black women. And why is that? That is because, as I have said time and time and time again, black women have created this they have created this environment, okay, where they have literally become toxic to the average, everyday, run of the mill black male. And I'm not talking about the Pookie and Ray Ray. I'm talking about the black male that actually has his shit together, has a job, has a car, is interested in a family, a wife and children, and he just doesn't want to deal with them anymore. I mean, it's just nauseating to see the amount of black men out here with white women. And that's not because I'm pro black on black love. It's because, I just don't feel like being with non-black women is any more beneficial for black men than it is black women with non black men. But black women have created this environment, just I don't need a man, or down with the swirl, fuck black men, niggas ain't shit, environment, where they are literally toxic to most black men. You even see in a lot of these interracial relationships, Nikki and Jamie, one of the most popular interracial couples in all of social media, breaking up. I think that was last year. And so now black women are in a very, 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 very precarious state. Um, it's, if I tell you this, maybe I would be laughing if I wasn't in a similar situation. But see, I'm a man, okay? I'm already thinking go out into the woods type of survival skills, okay? The the Hispanic people, they're gonna stick together as a family. Those of them that don't get sick. The white people that have resources and have families, they're gonna stick together. You know, the people in other parts of the world, the Asians, they're going to stick together and do what they have to do to survive. Like I said, I'm in talk with my families, but the truth of the matter is, when you look at 70% of African American, so-called African American homes, most of them are led, run, and dominated by single black women who are reliant on a welfare system that is threatened right now. Okay? A lot of people are asking, what's going to happen in the long term as the United States government and the Federal Reserve, they stretch out what reserves they have, and they're preparing to give out these $1,000 checks. They're not going to be able to do that forever with half the fucking country not working. They're going to have to start cutting certain. They're going to have to start cutting certain um, um, departments and services and programs. Then what are these foolish women that have put themselves in this predicament? What are they going to do? Okay? And most men, I'm sure prostitution to some extent will still go on. It survived the Great Depression. It was rampant during every war ever fought. But unless a female is literally willing to whore herself, and I'm not, we know a lot of these young thoughts are, okay? That's not going to stop them from getting disease or, something else. But a lot of young thoughts are, but a lot of these more established women have too much pride for that. That literally, if this gets really bad, that literally might be their only choice, because they have put themselves in a situation where, while a man at the very last of it, a man can still say, I'm a man. There's certain things I can do. I can build things. I can pick up things, 10 times what a woman can pick up. And like, if I need to move a log to chop it or something, if it gets that bad. But, women, the average female, You know, there are exceptions to the rule, but the average female, there are things that she simply cannot do individually on her own and collectively on their own. Okay, all this women empowerment, all this feminist bullshit, all this swirl girl, black girl magic shit is about to fly out the window faster than a fucking farkle bird. Okay, I mean, we're all in trouble. Okay, but they are in real bad predicament because they have, outside of the welfare system, outside of, this fantasy bubble that they've created for themselves, where they offer themselves sexually to white and non-black men, a lot of which, and I told black people this, when the shit hits the fan, when civilization and the socio-economic structure implodes in on itself, people are going to be doing exactly what they're doing now. They're not going to be thinking of anybody but themselves, going out hoarding goods, boarding up their windows, stocking up on guns and ammunition, and they're going to close their doors. The people that did not prepare and the people that do not have a strong family or financial structure are going to be the first casualties of this shit. And now that reality is setting in for not only the girl who swirls, but a lot of these females who just, thought that this was a fucking game. And so, because that's um, indirectly related to the corona, well, actually, it's directly related now that I think about it, I take that back. Since that's directly related to this coronavirus crisis that the entire world is dealing with now, I did feel obligated to bring that up and mention that. It's like, what now, punk? I mean, what now? I don't even have, I don't have to laugh at you because you're going to get fucked up anyway. I'm too busy trying to do what I got to do to save myself. But at the end of the day, I can still say that there's skills that I can acquire, there are things that I can do as a man that you, especially if you're a female with children, you simply can't. And if this welfare system takes a hit on this, I mean, because they're shutting down a lot of services. The courts are shutting down, so they can't even force these females to, get men to pay child support. A lot of these thoughts that we see on Instagram, shaking their ass, taking fancy vacations, basically hoeing themselves online, they are strongly reliant on two things. They're reliant on the simp, and they're reliant on government programs that, provide them with so-called assisted living. Okay, which is why they have all the free time in the world for all this stupid shit, including, drama and beefs with other females and talking shit about black men. But all of that in the long term, now the short term is one thing, but in the long term, that's not, they're gonna be fucked. Unless they're willing to, you know, um, prostitute themselves, because they're saying this could even have an effect on the internet. And people are gonna. That's another thing. People are gonna be holding on to their money. You know, you're gonna have a simp that may come down to the next time he has to feed his face or putting some money in some hoe's PayPal. I mean, if he's smart, he's gonna feed his face. So we'll see how this thing goes. It's gonna be tough for all of us, but it's gonna be tougher for those who have made it their business to be, dumb motherfuckers just for the sake of trying to fuck with other people, and trying to show, that they can be stupid and get away with it just because they think they have a pussy between their legs. So it's real now. Oh yeah, it's real now. Talk to you later, guys.